Hi, I'm Russ Heaps, and today on this episode of Beer to Whiskey, I'm in Houston, Texas. I'm at the Platypus Brewery, and I'm here with Sean Hanrahan, who is the owner, and Carrie Embertson, who is the head brewer, and we're going to talk a little bit about beer. And Platypus is near downtown in the Heights district, correct?
That's correct, just adjacent to the Heights near downtown.
And I have some general questions I want to ask, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, from listening to you, you're not from around these parts. Is that correct?
No, some would say Southwest Texas, so very south and very west. But that's correct.
What is the idea of platypus? Where'd that name come from, Sean?
Yeah, good question, Russ. Platypus is an indigenous animal to Australia, and that goes to really the identity of this brewery, which is Australia and Texas. So obviously I hail from Australia, as does my business partner Morgan. He's actually a dual citizen, and my co-founder, my wife Rachna, she's actually a local Texan, a local Houstonian, who is now a dual citizen of Australia. So Platypus is a wonderful representation of really who we are, where we come from, and our roots.
There's a lot of Australian sort of things going on here, in terms of the beers and the names of the beers. And
yeah, that's right, Russ. I mean, my concept was to infuse Australia right in the middle of Texas. And why would I do that? Why Texas? Well, I do have a lot of roots here with a lot of family here, but Australia and Texas has a lot of crossover in culture. And I get it from a lot of our customers every day, Aussies who come in and they feel right at home, and they get it. It's outdoor, it's relaxed, it's a
sure,
get on and get it done. So, you know, our identity being Australia and Texas, a number of the ingredients are from Australia, which makes us quite unique from a craft brewery standpoint in North America. And we have a bit of fun with the beer names, of course, and a lot of our beer names have either Aussie slang or, you know, I'm a bit of a rugby tragic, so rugby tragic roots as well.
Carrie, does the whole Australian thing work on you a little bit in terms of beer making, or do you have that in your mind when you're coming up with some new ideas? Or
definitely, we use a lot of Australian hops, which is fun as a brewer, because a lot of breweries don't use them because they are a little pricier because they're coming from Australia. So you get a lot of different flavors than your traditional American hops are going to have. And then when we go to make specialty beers, I get to delve into Australian food culture a little bit and try to pull out some ingredients that are unique to them that we can use here.
What was your background? How did you get started into brewing beer?
I was waiting tables at a brew pub in New Orleans and finishing up the prereqs to go to dental school, and the brewer said, "All those things I see you studying you can use to make beer." I said, "Sold." Sounds way more fun. So then I went to brewing school, and I worked in California before I moved here.
And how long have you been with Platypus?
Since the very beginning. So we've been open a year, and it took us about, 3 months to build the place out?
That's about right,
yeah,
Carrie. So we opened September 30th of 2016, and Carrie joined our team June of that year. Yeah, that's right.
So you're relatively young.
Relatively young, and onwards and upwards, as they say.
And what's your beer background? You could have done, I guess, all sorts of different things. Why a craft brewery?
Could have, should have, didn't. Why a craft brewery? Look, it just comes back to my passion. So my background's corporate, oil and gas and minerals, and let's jump back in time in Australia in roughly 2010, 2011. I've homebrewed for a period of time, of course, but I just had a passion for it, not just to homebrew and produce a product, but take it that next step further. I wanted to understand the science of beer. I do have a wonderful grasp of the beer making process, obviously not in the same league as Kerry, but I've been doing that for a number of years. In Australia, I actually travelled to Sydney from Brisbane. I'm from Brisbane originally, and put myself on a master brew course for a period of time, understand the science of beer. From there, I built a business plan because I could see a gap in the Aussie market back in 2010, 2011. They've since caught up, but at that point in time, I really could see the light, so to speak, or a path where I could combine my passion and a business all in one. And through the fortunes of life, my wife and I decided to move back here back in the beginning of 2015. So here I am searching for private equity, oil and gas. What am I doing in the next chapter of my life? And again, I saw an opportunity here in Houston. An incredibly large city full of a lot of diversity and really nice people. And I saw an opportunity here to present my concept into the glass. And so that was about March of 2015. And here we are. 3 years later, whatever it is, roughly 3 years later.
So your wife is involved in business as well, I understand.
Yeah, Rachna is one of the co-founders, that's correct.
Is she, does she have a beer background, or is she just sort of married you and stuck with whatever it is that you've decided to do?
Yeah, great. No, to know my wife, she's a very independent and a professional woman. So yeah, she's stuck by me in this sense, but the encouragement's been there. So Rach has been incredibly supportive from day one. Number one, she bought my first homebrew kit. So I think gently nudging me into the craft beer direction.
She sort of asked for it then.
Maybe, indirectly. But it was actually Rachna who was really the driving force behind building this. So, again, step back to 2015. We're fresh off the boat back in the US. And, I sort of pitched the idea to Rachna again. Hey, we have this business plan. I see an opportunity here in Houston. What do you think? And it was Rachna who, it's almost like an epiphany.
Yeah.
She said to me, Sean, we've got the opportunity and we've got the timing's right. If we do not do this now, we will never, ever do it. Profound. So stop talking about it, get on with it. And that was February of 2015, and by June we had a project. So I see her as the co-founder, but the driving force behind actually making this a reality in Houston. Yeah.
So you're relatively new, a little over a year old. How much beer do you guys make a year? Or what's your, what do you think you're going to do? Well, you would know from last year. But
yeah, that's right. So look, our first year production was right on in line with our targets. So our targets were to do roughly 500 plus in the tap room, and then start into the self-distribution world, and that's what we achieved. What 2018 holds for us, we've got a lot of strategic direction that we're following, which will unfold as it unfolds, and we'll let the market know ahead of time. But we're comfortable in the space that the volume that we're producing right now is in line with our initial expectations, and we're strategically pursuing a number of other avenues.
Are you guys canning anything or bottling anything?
Packaging is something that we are reviewing as part of our strategy, but right now it's purely in the kegs. So we're self-distributing to bars and restaurants around Houston. Been a wonderful market, very supportive of the local craft brewing industry in total. Actually, we found. I think is that correct? Yeah. Packaging is something that we're certainly reviewing for the future of Platypus.
Is there? This is sort of a boilerplate question that I ask wherever I go. Is there a beer that you're not producing that you guys really would like to produce, or you've got it in your mind that, yeah, this is something that I really got to do this?
Yeah, good question.
We've brewed a Saison once, and it was delicious, and I wish I could figure out how to make that a year-round beer. Like, at least weekly people come in and say, you don't have the Saison? Like,
it was good.
No, we haven't had it for a while. And I say, come back in the spring, because I'll bring it back. The same one? Well, I can't promise that.
Right.
There's too many weird things I can put in a Saison,
right.
So it might change a little bit. But if we could do that on a, maybe, 9 months out of the year. It's not really a wintertime beer.
Yeah,
sure.
But that would make me happy. I don't know if it's feasible.
Yeah, Saison, is this something that's dear to my heart? Not necessarily.
We come up with new beer ideas weekly, and our problem is trying to squeeze them into the production schedule.
Yeah.
Just because of tank space.
Right.
So there's a lot on the horizon, just when they get made, gets shifted around a lot.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting journey. Probably in the last 3 or 4 months, we we undertook an expansion of our cellar tanks. What that enabled us to do was to get a little bit more diversity in the tastes and flavours. So, you know, we have 11 to 13 taps at any one time on the menu right now. I'd like for another 1 or 2 of those. And again, we've only been open a year and a quarter.
Right.
And so it's given us the opportunity to put some weird and wacky stuff up there. And, you know, we've got a beet beer, which I think you tried earlier, Russ. We've got some heavy beers, we've got some light beers.
Some sour beers.
Sour beers. We've got a Goza coming out on the weekend with plums and Aussie sea salt for Australia Day, which is coming up on January 26th.
I wish I was going to be here for Australia Day.
Oh, it's a party.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. But it's given us the opportunity to really play around a bit. So we do have our core beers that we distribute a lot, but we really like for our customers to be able to experience our joy of beer making.
Yeah.
And that's starting to come through now, which is quite pleasing.
Well, you sort of talked me in earlier. You talked me into a beer with beets in it.
Correct.
Which I'm like, yeah, I don't do beets. But it was actually pretty good. What made you guys go, you know, we've got some beets here. Why don't we do this?
I'll answer from a conceptual standpoint. You can answer from the beer standpoint. But beets are almost a staple in the Australian diet. So if you have a burger, a salad, a sandwich, whatever it might be, you'll have pickled beets. It's just one of those things that Aussies do.
Okay.
So then we thought, why not combine it?
Yeah, and beets are full of sugar, and you roast them, and they're going to get the caramelized flavors that you also get out of malt. So we thought it'd be very complementary. And we also grow herbs in our planter boxes out there. So it's like, oh, and then we can put herbs in there, and it will taste. We didn't know what it was going to taste like. It's delicious.
It is. It's sort of like a Pinot Noir, which is an earthy sort of wine.
Earthy. Yeah, and
this is kind of an earthy sort of beer.
And we purposely used earthy hops in it to emphasize the earthiness of the beets.
Yeah. And Russ, you asked the question earlier. You know, what food would this pair was paired with well, and I immediately was drawn to sort of the red meat protein, and then Kerry, you said straight away fish. So it was incredibly diverse as to how you compare that beer. Interesting one.
And you guys have a kitchen here.
Correct.
Is there anything special that goes on in the kitchen in terms, do you guys think about the food and the beer together, or is it just, okay, let's have some bar food, or what's the thought process in the kitchen?
We do think about the beer and the food together. Everything on our menu is paired with a beer. The chef uses our beer a lot in the recipes. So, like, for example, our chicken sandwich is marinated in the beer we're drinking. We also have Australian specialties on the menu. So Australian meat pie, lamb skewers, those kind of, you know more Aussie food than me.
Yeah, we use some of the spent grain that comes from the brewing process. John, our wonderful chef who's sitting just over there, ignoring me, he uses that in a number of the dishes as well. So we're constantly seeing, and that had to be part of the concept of what we wanted to build here was, it's the brewing process without a doubt, but if we're going to have a kitchen, we're going to do it properly, so we're not going to do it halfway, and it needs to be fully integrated. And I think between Kerry and John, they just do an amazing job working together on that.
It's not your basic bar food, it's definitely elevated.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So Kerry, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay. Tell
me something that Sean does not know about you.
Oh my gosh, I spend more time with Sean than my husband, so wow, that's a hard one.
Dig deep.
Creepy.
Yeah.
Sean does not know about me. Do you know that I lived in a van on the beach in Alaska?
Yes.
Oh, you know that. Do you know my mom cried when she showed up to visit me?
Yes.
Oh, damn it.
Well, I guess he does know you pretty well.
I know, God, that was a random one.
Has to be something.
There has to be something.
High school, I know high school.
No.
You must know your
I refereed high school volleyball when I was in high school because
Didn't know that.
So I got mad at the coach my senior year and quit and became a ref. I made $100 for 2 hours of work in 1997 in high school. That was a lot of money. There we go. There's a random one.
I can go home now. I've learned something new.
There we go.
Well, I guess we better talk about the beer before Sean finishes.
I was about to say, this is...
That's the Australian pace.
Yes, that's right.
Well, it's impressive.
And I'm slow. Yeah.
So what is it that we're drinking here?
I was drinking,
drinking.
the Ranger Red Ale, and which is, Kerry can describe the beer in a little bit more detail.
It's definitely a red ale. It's not in the Irish red ale style. It's going to be an American red ale.
I'm going to pinch some because I'm thirsty.
It's brewed with 100% El Dorado hops, so they're a very unique hop. So it has almost a candy-like aroma, and it's very fruit-forward. And it's not still medium-bodied. You can drink this in the summer as well as the winter. A little bit maltier than a lot of our beers.
What's the alcohol percentage in it?
5%, so it's perfect, right? Right in the middle.
Yeah.
Easy drinking.
Yeah, you can have more than one.
And the origins of this beer, we were doing the product strategy, so to speak, or the product selection when we were first sitting down. What are we going to brew? And yes, we had an easy suite of beers that we wanted to bring to the Houston market, and I think we've done that well. But I wanted something just a little bit different to provide some depth of the menu, the beer menu. And I thought red ale. Why? Because I've sort of grown up drinking a lot of Irish Reds and
right.
back in Australia, and I enjoy them. But I didn't necessarily want it to produce, a red ale or an Irish Red, I should say. And so Kerry had this wonderful idea in relation to producing just a little bit more off-the-wall red ale, something that may work, but it'll be like a fringe beer for the menu. So this was never meant to be a mainstream sort of high-volume beer. And welcome to brewing.
Yeah.
Where as soon as you have a plan, all right, get that, throw it away,
Yeah.
and then get a new plan.
Yep.
And sure enough, it's the market's really enjoyed it and really loved it. And I'll give kudos to my good friend Brock over at St Arnold Brewing. And Brock came and tried this, I think our opening night was soon thereafter, and he pointed to it and he goes, "That should be a shot, that should be a..." And to have that sort of feedback come from such a gentleman of the industry meant a lot to me, and it still does. He's been integral in building this place, and some of the advice he's given me personally. So kudos to Brock Wagner at St Arnold's, but also you get that sort of endorsement from a gentleman such as Brock. That this beer's going to do well, and it has for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was at St. Arnold yesterday, and sadly I didn't get to meet Brock, but I do understand from you guys and some of the other brewers I've been to around town, he's sort of, St. Arnold may be the patron saint of beer, but Brock is sort of the patron saint of beer in Houston.
I think well, for me personally, and Kerry, you'll have your own view, but I think he's put Houston on the map in independent craft brewing. So, but that's important. He's put Houston on the map for independent craft brewing, and and I think that's really important. And he's done a cracking job. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, guys, I appreciate your invite and spending a little time with me. I know you're busy, but it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed the beer immensely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
See you next time.